Welcome back to the channel. I think most of us were expecting the solo debut of Sun Spider and Edge of Spider-Verse #4 to be pretty bad. T. Franklin, not a good writer, not a good concept, was out there guilt-tripping, emotionally blackmailing people for having criticisms of the character, but it ended up being so much worse. Like, beyond what I actually anticipated. This thing was an experience, folks. I survived it all, and I do it all for you. This is a public service, and I am taking bullets left and right from Marvel and DC with their terrible comic book writers, including T. Franklin. Another trip to the T. Franklin factory. Let's get started and meet Charlotte Weber, also known as Sun Spider. Right off the bat, T. Franklin and Sun Spider need you to know that this is a disabled hero. She says, I get so much more respect as Sun Spider, the disabled hero, than I do as Charlie Weber. When I'm Charlie, I'm either invisible, helpless, or my favorite, that sick kid. If being Sun Spider wasn't so exhausting due to my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I would embrace this alter ego all the time. Although the hyper flexibility that comes with having EDS helps me kick all types of villainous butt, I wasn't expecting my EDS to disappear when I became Sun Spider. But it would have been nice if I wasn't dealing with chronic pain and fatigue most of the time. Right off the bat, I will tell you, the purpose of this comic book is not to entertain or be like a superhero comic. It's much more to beat you over the head that being disabled is difficult. And there's certainly some merit to pointing that out there and maybe putting that in comic books. But I think T. Franklin and Marvel Comics probably picked the wrong illness in this case. EDS appears to be probably the worst affliction possible for a superhero to have. I've heard it described as hell on earth, and this is the advice WebMD gives people living with EDS. Wear protective clothing or pads over your knees and elbows to prevent bruising and cuts, because apparently that happens a lot. Avoid contact sports and high-impact exercises like running or skiing. And from what I've read, the little bit that I have read, I'm not an expert by any means, people living with EDS that are actually in wheelchairs like have the very worst version of it. It's not mild. It's not really something that you can really live with and manage day to day like some other people with EDS. I kind of wish T. Franklin maybe had done a little bit more research on this and maybe came up with something that fit the character, their abilities, and what they're going to be doing physically in the comic book a little bit better. That's not the most embarrassing part. When you get into the story and you start getting the Charlotte Weber experience, you quickly realize that this character is in fact T. Franklin. She's whining a lot, never seeing what's actually happening, and trying to use her disability to make everybody feel bad for her, despite supposedly telling people not to feel bad for her. It's a lot of conflicting messages and stories in here. When she finally gets to the prom, one of her friends gives her a compliment. She says, thanks, Aster. You look pretty damn gorgeous yourself. And thanks to herself, I'll regret if I don't ask you for a dance at some point tonight. Because of course she has to be a lesbian, because T. Franklin is also a lesbian. And then her friends, the baddies, decide they're going to help her up to get into the prom because there's no ramp. This is what Gloria says. I can't believe there's no ramp for Charlie. This is what her best friend Aster and the girl that she wants to dance with says. Exactly, Glory. We're on the prom committee and we complained every single time we came here. Seriously, if you were on the prom committee and you picked out the venue for the dance and you knew one of your friends was handicapped and needed access to a ramp, why didn't you get a building with a ramp? Like, this is all their fault. Like, it's so weird. It's this building's fault. They don't have a ramp. We only booked the damn thing. It's like, there's so much stupid logic. And it gets worse. She lets them know, I do appreciate y'all, but I need you to understand that I'm not a baby. If I don't ask for your help, please let me figure things out on my own. I'll let you know when I need you, because these three people, her friends, are going out of their way to make sure that she's okay. And she thinks to herself, everyone swears they know what's best for me, but they don't. I know everyone means well, but I can stick up for myself. See how invisible I am? They're looking right through me. Do you think the fact that you have three grown human beings helping you out might be a reason that they didn't stop to try and help you? And not to mention the fact, the one time people try to help you in this moment, you complain that you don't want help, yet you're mad at people for not looking at you. It's like, what do you want? Do you want people to pamper you, or do you want them to ignore you? It sounds like you want them to ignore you, but when they do that, they're being assholes for not paying attention to you. Like, this is T. Franklin in a nutshell. I have been told behind the scenes stories about T. Franklin, and she's just as difficult from what I understand. She's dancing with her friends, and all of a sudden, Doc Ock shows up, and he says, Charlotte, you look magnificent tonight. This corsage and these new legs would look even better on you. This guy's paid so much attention to her that he made her robotic legs, but no one ever looks at her. And she lets him know, I told you months ago that I wasn't interested in these, and for the record, my legs are perfect. Why won't anyone listen to me? How dare you spurn my age, Charlotte? You'll regret that. No one's going to enjoy the prom. And he starts destroying everything, and this is when she turns into Sun Spider or whatever. And this version of Doc Ock is essentially the exact same character that we just saw in Archie Comics' Summer Lovin' special that T. Franklin wrote a book on. Apparently, the worst thing in the world to do is, if you know someone that's disabled, to go out of your way and try to be nice to them and do things to help them out. Obviously, Otto Octavius is a little bit more of an extreme example, but she really hates this kind of treatment. And you wonder why everyone says that you were absolutely uncreative, T. Franklin. It's because you are. And so we get this big action scene. And this other hero named Histamina just shows up out of nowhere. I don't know who this character is or why they're here. Sun Spider, of course, knocks out Doc Ock and says, mind if I cut in? Nice job, Histamina. Go protect the students. I've got this squid. As you wish, Sun Spider. So apparently this character is completely subservient to Sun Spider. Then he lets her know he's in fact Doc Ock. Doctor, you haven't even graduated high school yet. Seeing your squid is a much better fit. And then she ends up diving into a manhole despite having this terrible affliction. It says, if I could time this right, I should be able to dislocate my hip and arms to fit in. And then she ends up blowing herself like out of the manhole. And that somehow ends up defeating this version of Doc Ock. And we get the coup de grace, the very last page, where everyone needs to apologize to this character that is a superhero, mind you. Random man says, Charlotte, you're okay, thank goodness. I'm so sorry I didn't make sure you were out safely. So everyone abandoned the handicapped lady, even though she was the hero of the story. And she says, wait, now you want to care? You all left me, treating me like an afterthought. Who knows what could have happened? Even though the entire time she's been saying, stop helping me. But you can't forget her because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It was bad enough there was no ramp. Your friends booked the territory, lady. They booked the building. Your friends booked a building without a ramp. So I couldn't get outside, but during a crisis, no one thought about me. Of course, taking no responsibility for the fact that she started the damn thing. The guy just tried to give her a corsage and probably have a dance with her, show her off these cool like legs I made, that maybe you'll be able to walk again. And she told him to go scream, and he ended up ruining everyone's prom because she was a jerk to him. But it's all their fault. If I wasn't Sun Spider, anything could have happened to me tonight. But I shouldn't have to rescue myself nor be forgotten in an emergency. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to fix my not waterproof mascara. When I'm done in the bathroom, you and I have a date on the dance floor, Aster. Is that so? Guess I'll be here waiting for my dance partner. That's right, Charlie. Take up space and go after what you want. And then she says, I wish people would see me like they see Sun Spider. I'm a human being with feelings and deserve to be treated with respect, not as an afterthought. She literally has three best friends that are doing everything that they can to treat her with respect and be nice, and they try to help her up the ramp. She says, I don't want to help up the ramp. You're supposed to let me do this. There's another boy that's very interested in her. He gives her a corsage. He made robot legs to help her get around. She spurned him. She's got Aster, this girl that she's interested in, that wants to dance with her. Who's ignoring her? The dude that owns the building even came up and apologized for what happened. Like, who is ignoring this person? She's the center of the whole goddamn story. Everyone is giving her attention and trying to do the best that they can for her. But that's who T. Franklin is. That's not who this Charlotte Weber is. We are literally reading a comic book about T. Franklin airing her grievances and how nothing is ever enough. But if you do help me, I don't want your help. It's so crazy. Like, this is an actual story. Someone paid T. Franklin to write that. Like, I wonder why this is going to fail. This was absolutely forewarned by yours truly when I talked about Harley Quinn Eat, Bang, Kill Tour. Probably the worst comic book written of all times. If you don't know about Peg Leg Beyonce, the other self-insert character that T. Franklin created in the DC Comics universe, you need to watch this video. I created this especially for you. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. If you don't see it here, there's also a link in the video description.